Before we jump into the chaos, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss the next adventure. The Diplomat Aquata hummed with its usual sterile efficiency. When Cassius decided the alien fruit needed proper cutting, his tactical knife emerged from its sheath with practiced silence, the blackened steel catching ambient light as he positioned the purple bulbous thing on his plate. The blade sliced through alien flesh with surgical precision, juice pooling around geometric patterns etched deep into the metal near the guard. Ambassador Anshan had been mid-sentence about trade agreements when the glint caught their compound eyes. The Zepyrian's chitinous head tilted at an angle that suggested curiosity rather than alarm. Their species possessed an unfortunate tendency toward academic fascination with primitive artifacts, which explained why Antarian leaned closer instead of maintaining proper diplomatic distance. Fascinating engravings. Antarian observed their translator rendering the harmonic clicks into something resembling polite interest. Are these ceremonial markings from your home world's cultural traditions? Cass paused, fruit halfway to his mouth. He glanced down at his knife, then back at the alien diplomat, whose forearms were now folded in what humans had learned meant, "Please, elaborate." Extensively. The dining chamber around them continued its quiet murmur of interspecies conversation. A third legation members absorbed in their own carefully choreographed cultural exchanges. Not exactly ceremonial, had replied, wiping juice from the blade with his napkin. The motion revealed more of the intricate scratches and gouges that decorated the steel. Each mark had been carved with deliberate precision, forming patterns that suggested both artistry and function. Anshan's translator worked overtime as they shifted closer, their segmented body making soft clicking sounds against the adaptive seating. Then perhaps religious significance. Your species maintains diverse spiritual practice according to our preliminary cultural assessments. Also not religious. Cassius rotated the knife, letting ambient lighting play across the engravings. What had seemed like simple scratches from a distance resolved into complex imagery up close. Tiny skulls, elongated forms that might have been skeletal remains, and geometric patterns that formed when examined properly. Thesipirian's excitement was palpable, manifesting as rapid color changes across their exoskeleton. Historical commentary. We understand humans maintain extensive records of significant events through various artistic mediums. Cassius considered his words carefully. Diplomatic training had emphasized the importance of accurate translation. But certain concepts didn't translate well across species barriers, especially when those species had evolved along fundamentally different paths than humanity. Their kill marks, he said finally. The translator rendered this into Antarian's native harmonics. But something must have been lost in conversion because the aliens' posture didn't change. Their compound eyes remained fixed on the blade with academic interest, rather than the horror humans had learned to expect from peaceful species. Kill marks, Antarian repeated, the translator struggling with concept. This translates as termination indicators. Perhaps you could elaborate on their cultural significance within human societies. Each mark represents something I've killed. Cassius spoke slowly, giving the translation matrix time to process properly. Personal hunting record. This time, the translator's rendering caused a visible shift in Antarian's demeanor. Their chitinous plates rippled with colors that definitely hadn't appeared in the diplomatic briefings. The forearms unfolded and refolded in rapid succession, creating a percussion that drew attention from nearby tables. Killed, Antarian said, their harmonic patterns taking on frequencies that made other aliens turn toward their table. As in terminated living organisms, mostly larger predators, Cassius continued eating his fruit, seemingly oblivious to the growing tension. Some smaller ones when they got aggressive. Standard wildlife management. Veterans later worked furiously, cross-referencing concepts that apparently didn't exist in Zephyrian culture. Antrian's exoskeleton had settled on a deep purple shade. That other species recognized as extremidistris. Wildlife management, they repeated mechanically. You manage wildlife through termination when necessary. Cassius traced one particular marking with his thumb. This one's from a brown bear that wandered into a populated area. Had to be relocated permanently. Relocated permanently? Anshin whispered, their translator barely functioning. You mean dead? Yeah. Cassius looked up, finally noticing the alien's distress. Is there a problem? Antrian's compound eye swiveled toward the knife, then back to Cass, then toward the other human delegation members scattered through a dining chamber. Each human carried similar implements. The ambassador now realized utensils that doubled as weapons worn with casual familiarity. That suggested regular use, according to our databases. Anshin said carefully, the species you describe. Brown bears were classified as apex predators on your home world. Sure, big ones, too. This particular specimen was pushing adult male size. Antrian repeated their exoskeleton now cycling through colors. That indicated approaching system shutdown. You personally terminated an apex predator. Well, yeah. Couldn't let it wander around suburbia. Kids walk those streets. The implications struck Antarian with physical force. Their species had evolved on a world where cooperation meant survival, where predation occurred only at microscopic levels, where the concept of actively hunting larger organisms was not merely foreign, but mathematically impossible. You hunt apex predators. They said, this statement emerging as barely controlled harmonics. Sometimes depends on the situation. Cassius pointed to another mark. This one's from a mountain lion that got to comfortable round hiking trails. And this series here represents a pack of wolves that were harassing livestock. A pack, Anyan whispered. Multiple apex predators. Simultaneously, pack hunting requires pack solutions. Cassius shrugged, returning to his meal. Pretty standard stuff, really. Antarian's mind raced through databases their species maintained on member civilizations. Peaceful herbivores, cooperative omnivores, and various categories of civilized sapiens who had transcended their violent origins. Through technology and social evolution, humans had been classified as recently evolved omnivores with strong cooperative tendencies and minimal predatory behaviors. Their classification was apparently catastrophically wrong. Standard stuff, Anshin repeated. Their translator now struggling with concepts that had no equivalent in their language. They stared at the knife, at the casual way Cassius wielded it, at the implications of a species that considered apex predator termination routine maintenance. Ambassador Cassius noticed the aliens' distress levels approaching critical thresholds. "You look. Are you feeling all right?" Antrian's response was interrupted by a soft chimming from their personal communication device. A priority message from the Galactic Species Database Division, automatically triggered by the conversation their translator had been monitoring and reporting. The message was brief. Classification review required. Human species data may be incomplete or inaccurate. Recommend immediate assessment of predatory capabilities. Antrian looked at the knife again, at the casual competence with which Cassius handled it, at the dozens of kill marks etched into metal that had obviously seen extensive use. They thought about the other humans in the dining chamber, all carrying similar implements, all displaying the same unconscious confidence of apex predators who had never questioned their position in the food chain. "I need to make a call," Antrian said, their harmonics tight with barely controlled panic. Cassius nodded agreeably and returned to his fruit, unaware that his simple meal preparation had just triggered the first comprehensive review of human species classification in Galactic Council history. The knife continued its work, slicing through alien flesh with the same casual efficiency it had once supplied to terrestrial predators around them. The diplomatic dinner continued its peaceful progression. Williantarian's communication device began transmitting an emergency assessment request that would reach the high levels of interspecies government within hours. The kill marks gleamed in the ambient light, each one representing astery that no peaceful species should have been able to tell. The emergency response came faster than Antrian had anticipated. High Arbiter Boxel materialized in the diplomatic quarter within the hour, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated extreme administrative displeasure. Behind her floated a collection of scanning devices that looked more suited to archaeological expeditions than casual diplomatic meetings. Cassius remained seated at his table, having finished both his meal and what appeared to be routine blade maintenance. The knife now rested beside his empty plate, its etched surface gleaming under the enhanced lighting Brixel's equipment had activated. Other human delegation members had been quietly relocated to different sections of the station, leaving Cassius alone with increasingly agitated alien officials. "Citizen Thornfield," Brixel began, her harmonic voice carrying gundertones that the translation matrix rendered as barely controlled. "Authority, we require verification of certain claims regarding your personal implements and their decorativeness." "Sure thing." Cassius gestured toward the knife with the same casual ease he might have shown offering directions. "What do you need to know?" Brixel's scanning equipment descended like mechanical vultures, sensors extending toward the blade from multiple angles. The readings they generated caused her crystalline structure to dim noticeably. Whatever the devices were detecting apparently exceeded their normal parameters. "These markings," she said, indicating the etched patterns with a gesture that kept her appendages well away from the actual weapon. Ambassador Antarian's initial report suggests they represent biological termination events. Hunting record. Yeah. Cassius leaned back in his chair, watching the scanners work with mild interest. Each mark represents a successful hunt or necessary culling operation. The translation of culling operation sent visible ripples through Boxall's crystalline form. She gestured to her equipment, which responded by projecting holographic displays filled with data that made Entarian's earlier distress seem understated. According to these readings, BXELL continued. The biological matter embedded within these engravings originates from multiple species classified as apex predators in the Galactic biological database. Sounds about right. Cassius nodded agreeably. Blood and bone fragments get worked into the steel during the marking process. Kind of a memorial thing. Memorial BXELL repeated her harmonic pattern, suggesting she was accessing multiple translation protocol simultaneously. You preserve biological remains of terminated organisms in your cutting implements. Traditional practice shows respect for the animal and reminds you of successful hunts. Cassius traced one particular marking with his finger, seemingly oblivious to the way every alien in the vicinity recoiled at the gesture. This one still has traces of grizzly bear in the etching. The holographic displays updated rapidly, cross-referencing grizzly bear with existing biological data. The results caused Boxall's crystalline structure to pulse with colors that indicated system overload. According to the database, grizzly bears were classified as alpha terrestrial predators with capabilities that exceeded most planetary apex species. Alpha's predator, she whispered more to herself than to Cassius. You personally engaged an alpha-class predator in direct combat. Well, not combat exactly. More like pest management with extreme prejudice. Kasia shrugged. Thing was threatening civilian populations. Had Tobe handled, Brixel echoed, accessing deeper database layers. Our records indicate alpha-class predators require coordinated military responses. With advanced technology and numerical superiority, maybe for your species, humans handle things differently. The scanning equipment had moved on to analyzing other areas of the knife, detecting additional biological traces that painted an increasingly horrifying picture. Each etched symbol represented not just a single termination event, but evidence of successful predation against creatures that most civilized species avoided entirely. This marking bricks indicated a particularly complex pattern near the blade's base. Analysis indicates multiple biological signatures from pack-hunting species. Wolf pack that got too aggressive around livestock areas. Cassius's tone remained conversational, as if discussing weather patterns rather than mass predator termination. Had to take down the whole family group to prevent territory expansion. Entire pack. Boxall processed this information with visible difficulty. You eliminated an entire predator pack alone. Pack hunting requires pack elimination. Can't leave survivors to breed new problems. The implications struck every alien present with varying degrees of horror. Pack hunters represented some of the most dangerous terrestrial predators in the galaxy, requiring specialized military intervention, even on worlds with advanced technology. The concept of a single individual successfully engaging an entire pack bordered on biological impossibility. Brixel's equipment detected movement from the direction of the station's main corridors. Dr. Serafina Ashworth approached with measured steps, her medical scanner already active and focused on the assembled alien officials rather than the human under investigation. Gentlemen, She addressed the aliens with professional courtesy. I'm registering elevated stress indicators across all your biometrics. Perhaps we should approach this investigation more systematically. Dr. Ashworth BXELL acknowledged, grateful for any semblance of scientific methodology in what had become an exercise in xenobiological horror. We require clarification regarding human predatory capabilities and their relationship to these trophy markers. Sarah activated her scanner, directing it toward Cassius and his knife. The readings generated made Baxel's earlier equipment seem primitive by comparison. Detailed biological analysis, genetic markers, and metabolic data painted a picture that challenged fundamental assumptions about human evolution. Interesting readings, Sarah observed.